Looks like Mibuki is getting the harsh reality drilled into her head that, yeah, the Taisha are not good people. I think everybody has to have that realization at some point, I guess. But yeah, this is my thoughts on the third episode of Yuki Yuna as a Hero, the Great Mankai chapter. So let's dive right into it. But yeah, this episode had a lot of clarity kind of given to us in exactly what they're doing here. We obviously knew that the Sentinels were going out beyond the barrier, but exactly what they were doing was the big question mark. Were they finding things? Granted, we did know that they were planting saplings, but exactly what that entailed was the big question mark. So they do find locations. They end up bringing Aya with them. Aya performs like a ritual in order to plant a seedling, and the seedling would then grow into a big tree. And they're doing this in order to kind of create boundaries elsewhere besides the main location they're at. But obviously the unfortunate thing that happens here is, despite the fact that Mibuki is doing a fantastic job of protecting her people and leading them and to prevent casualties, they do end up having a lot of these girls end up leaving and are quickly being replaced by other girls thanks to the Taisha. And it keeps hitting on the fact that Mibuki, despite the fact that she feels that they're all being treated like cogs, she doesn't want that. She doesn't feel like, despite the fact that they're dispendable, she doesn't want that to happen with her group. And so she's doing everything that she can in order to protect them to prove their worth. They even have at some point one of the Taishas talking to Mibuki and says that essentially, hey, you're doing a great job. We don't have any casualties, but it's like, yeah, but you also have a lot of girls leaving. And even from their perspective, they assumed there were going to be casualties. So again, this aspect that the Taisha are not people you should trust. They're kind of bad people. Everything is for the divine tree and everybody's expendable. It's kind of always been, and never give more information than you have to, essentially. But despite this is their route. They're slowly but surely, little by little, they're expanding out. And it's all thanks to the efforts they're putting into this that they're able to get as far as they are. They even have points where these girls are actually out there talking about how they think that their role, it could possibly be more important than the heroes themselves. As the heroes defend their land, these girls are actually going out and expanding the land. And kind of following a lot of this stuff, we get a brief moment where Mibuki goes out on a date with Aya. And we have this brief little moment where we see Mibuki kind of being a lot more natural. We find out that she likes crafting things. She's kind of a model otaku. She kind of freaks out about, this castle model and this tank model, kind of showing Aya this different side of her, which, yes, a little bit embarrassed by showing, but it has Aya kind of point out the idea that she's always lived within the bounds of the Taisha because her family, her parents were all Taisha, and so she kind of eat, breathed, and slept Taisha. So to kind of get Mibuki showing her this excitement for something else was really kind of refreshing to her. And this is where we also find out that Mibuki's father, which we didn't really know what was so special about him. We obviously knew that she looked up to him and wanted to be respected like he was. We kind of find out that he's actually a shrine carpenter. So he actually creates shrines, and this is why he was so looked up to. But not only that, but this kind of thing that he instilled upon her, which was this desire not to be a stepping stool for others, which again really pushes heavy on what Mibuki sees, how Mibuki sees things, and the idea that she doesn't want to be seen as a cog, she doesn't want to be seen as disposable, and even her team, she doesn't want them to be seen as such. And it was so funny because at this point, when Aya and Mibuki went out, I'm like, oh my gosh, are they really flagging the hell out of Aya? like this really looks like it's flagging Aya. I mean, you're so heavy on Mibuki being strong, and here now she has Aya with her that keeps talking really positively to her and really getting very much so closer. I think we're flagging things here. So yeah, I wrote down in my notes, oh my gosh, are they flagging Aya? And literally the next scene, boom, here's a Taisha talking to the team and saying, hey, yeah, by the way, the divine tree is weakening. Due to the last battle, it's getting weaker, and we need to have a sacrifice to strengthen it. And so Aya has agreed to becoming a sacrifice to it and to strengthen it. And by the way, also, we need you to go back out there. You remember when you planted those seedlings? We need you to go back out there and get those seedlings and bring them back so that we can use it in the tree. Thanks. Which obviously is not a positive thing from Mibuki. I mean, obviously the fact that they want to sacrifice Aya, but also the fact that now they have to basically undo all the work they've done by going back out there and retrieving things. Really doesn't settle with her. So yeah, obviously as they're going out there to get that, we now have the situation that Mibuki is trying to figure out some way that she can possibly save Aya, because Aya is going to be a sacrifice, which is definitely interesting. This is kind of one of those points where I'm really struggling with how they tell the story so separated from the main cast? As we obviously know, this is kind of leading up to the events of the hero chapter. It's a struggle to really realize, is this before they put Yuki Yuna up to be a sacrifice to Shinju? Or is this at the same time? Because this makes me question, okay, was there a sacrifice before Yuki? Like, did they have a point in which the tree weakened, they sacrificed Aya, it strengthened it, and then it's going to weaken again, and then that's when they brought in Yuki Yuna? Or is it a case where Aya's not going to make it? Like, Aya's not going to be either efficient enough for it, like just sacrifice for no reason, or possibly maybe kidnapped by Mabuki and prevented to be the sacrifice, and that's why they have to use Yuki? It's a good question. I mean, it's like I said, it's really hard to really gauge exactly where we're at here. And obviously we had this scene in the first episode where they went to Togo for a Miko. So, again, where does that fall in there? Did they go to Togo in order to get Yuki? Again, it's kind of a weird placement for stuff, and it's really hard to gauge exactly where we're sitting at in time frame wise. I did find it really funny that, like, despite all these girls leaving, because they're just going through girls like crazy, but obviously all the named characters that are important are all still in the group, but yet, like, the one girl that just cannot shut up, Suzume, is still there. Like, all these other girls leave, and Suzume actually stays. That tells you a lot about these other girls. And of course, for some reason, Shizuku had to be, like, this crazy split personality character. Like, out of nowhere, they have this character just flying all over the area, using this big, huge chain blade thing and screaming madly. And they're like, oh, it's Shizuku's second form. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're doing that thing where the really quiet, reserved self becomes a psycho on the battlefield. Sure. And it was kind of interesting to have technically some kind of tie-in with the heroes, at least this episode, or at least Yuki's team. And the idea that they had Suzume, who apparently went to see them. At some point, apparently her school, their hero club was disbanding, and she wanted to know more about why the hero club existed. So she went to this other school, which ended up being the school of the original cast, and was going to watch them to find out, I mean, what's the deal with the Hero Club? She said that she ended up finding out the whole reason why the Hero Club was established was to kind of vet for possible heroes for the Taisha to actually recruit. But she ends up getting captured by Karen, brought in there, forced to eat stuff, and then interrogated by Togo before she finally was able to leave. But yeah, obviously that kind of hits a nerve with Mabuki talking about Karen, obviously, because Karen beat her in the tryouts for heroes. So yeah, I'm hoping at least this next episode will get a little bit of clarity as to, like, how this matches up with the hero chapter, because I think at this point I really want to get some clarification. Maybe it's being vague on purpose so that we don't know if Aya ends up being sacrificed. Obviously we know that eventually they go to Yuki Yuna, but if we knew that it was the same time that Yuki Yuna was brought in, that thus pretty much clarifies that, you know, Aya obviously was not sacrificed. So to not have a clear idea of time frames, it at least leaves it up for us to speculate that Aya might have been a first sacrifice and they needed a second one for Yuki. But at any rate, I thought this was a great episode. Like I said, I kind of want a clarification now. I'm really curious at this point how many episodes we're going to end up getting in with this particular story arc, because it does seem like it's coming up to a climax, like maybe 1 or 2 more episodes, honestly, but I do think that this has been doing really good with the last couple episodes of really establishing Mabuki as a really strong character. Like I said before, I didn't really like her in the first episode, but I thought that after we kind of got more into her ability to lead people and protect her own people, she's turned out to be a really solid character, a character that can lead a group, and I respect it. I still think she's a selfish character, but it's one of those things where despite being selfish, she's still always thinking about the people under her. It's not too much of a bad thing to think that being selfish in the idea that you won't lose people still ends up being selfless, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It made more sense in my head. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Yuki Yuna as a hero, the Great Mankai Chapter, Episode 3. Hope you guys enjoyed my impressions. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And y'all take care.